Joining me now, leader of One Nation, Pauline Hanson, as she often joins us on Monday night. Pauline, great to see you tonight. Really appreciate your time. Now, it seems to me as if the politics of this is playing out a little bit differently in Canberra. We've seen the Prime Minister, he's been loath to criticise any state or territory leaders during this crisis, and that's probably a statesman-like thing to do. But Josh Frydenberg in the last 72 hours has been highly critical of the way Daniel Andrews has handled this.
Well, so he should be, the way that Daniel Andrews has handled the cases in Victoria. And we'll go back, you know, to the security guards on the hotel and their behaviour and what happened there. Daniel Andrews, you know, okay, another 19 deaths, Peter. Look, I know people are going to disagree with me. I try to be upfront with the people and I tell you my thoughts and what I think what is happening. I have never seen such a political game being played with this as what I'm seeing now. I see Queensland coming into Queensland state elections at the end of October, and I see Western Australia with the elections that are actually going to happen in March next year. A political game has been played here like none that I have ever seen before. The Prime Minister doesn't want to get involved because he can't, because it's separation of the states in federation. So they can do whatever they want to do. But it's a manipulation that is happening at the moment. The 19 deaths, how many of these people are, you know, possibly 70, 80, 90 years of age with underlying health issues? When Daniel Andrews was asked about the 30-year-old that died the other day, because they said he had coronavirus. But did he actually die of coronavirus? What were the underlying health issues which he refused to comment on because of privacy to the family and respect to the family? Be upfront and honest with the people. And as I've said, a lot of these people have died with the coronavirus, not because of it. And we're seeing a shutdown of our country.
And Pauline, the frustration continues, particularly in border communities, and we've heard a lot of stories down around the Albury-Wodonga area. Now we're hearing it around Coolangatta and Tweed Heads. It looks like the Palaszczuk government is about to scrap the exemptions that currently apply. So on that border between Coolangatta and Tweed Heads. So if you live in Tweed Heads and work in Coolangatta, you're allowed to go through. If you live in Coolangatta and work in Tweed Heads, you're allowed to go through. But it looks like, and they haven't announced it yet, but it's being intimated today, that those exemptions may be scrapped. Another dagger in the heart of these people.
It is, you know, to do with jobs, with families and people that need to cross the border. And what for? There's one case in Queensland. This was a traveller that returned from overseas, Peter. It's affecting our state tremendously and the impact it's having on people. And I keep saying this over and over. The states are doing what they want to do because they know they are being propped up by the federal government in JobKeeper and JobSeeker. If that was ripped away from people and you weren't propped up by the federal government, and I tell people, where do you think the money's coming from? Where is it coming from? We are creating huge debt to our economy that possibly it will never be paid back. Or if not, you're only going to see it paid back by increasing taxes. So if you think Palaszczuk is doing you a favour by keeping our borders shut, she's not. Because she actually gets in the next election, I can tell you, you'll see rises in possibly land tax. Every household in Queensland will be taxed. You'll possibly could even see death duties introduced. You will actually have the GST increased because that whatever you take home pay again after you're taxed, you're actually going to pay another 10, 15, 20% on top of that for everything that you buy. We are taxed to the hilt. This debt has to be paid back. So those people out there who don't take an interest in politics, don't know what the hell's going on in this country, I suggest you better start taking an interest and knowing what's happening because it's going to impact on your future and your future generations, your children and your grandchildren.
Pauline, I detect a fair bit of frustration there. Now, you're polling around 12 to 14% in the current news polling in Queensland. So you, Katter, even Clive Palmer will command a certain amount of attention come October 31. Have you made a decision yet on which way you'll go in relation to preferences from the One Nation party? Because it's pretty clear that, you know, between One Nation, Katter and Clive Palmer's party that, you know, there's a chance that Palaszczuk may not be elected if those particular parties combine to preference the LNP?
Peter, we're leaving it up to the voter. I'm trying to educate the voter and say, political parties don't control your preferences. You do. You hold the pen in your hand. You direct where you want your preference to go. You mark number 1 for the best candidate you believe will represent you. Then you put your number 2 beside, if they don't get up, who's your next best choice? I'm trying to educate the voter. This is something that both sides of politics, whether it's Liberal or Labor, have never bothered to tell the people about. The people of this state, most of them have no idea how the preference system works. And then when the media or the political parties blame one nation or someone else put someone in government, no, it wasn't us. It was you, the people, yourselves. So that's what I'm going to say. You control where your preferences go and know what you're doing. Because this next election, you put Labor in, I'm telling you now, they will be back in there for 8 years. You will see a destruction of this state you have never seen before. And under Palaszczuk, I pity where we're headed as a state. We're heading for a $100 billion debt. She's put on 57,000 public servants in this state. That is taxes collected by the state government paying these people that we cannot afford.
Pauline, before we go, I just want your quick response to this court dismissal of the Drew Pavlou case. Of course, he's been locked in a dispute with the University of Queensland over his or anti-Chinese stance, if you like. At the moment, we've got the court dismissing his particular case against the Chinese Consul General. What are your thoughts?
I think it's disgusting. I think that because you're a consulate in this country, you're treated totally different to the average Aussie out there. If an Aussie was to incite violence against someone, they would actually have to respect our laws. Our laws say because he's consulate, no, nothing's being done about it. I think it's so wrong. I think he should have to leave this country. No one has the right to incite violence against another person, and that's what happened to Pavlou. This consulate incited violence, people to actually take violence against him, and I think it was totally wrong. He had no place, no right to do it in this country. His views should remain his own, if that be the case, but here we have a division in Australia, and I think it's so wrong.